I really wish somebody would invent a self-cleaning windshield or non-stick bugs. Hey guys, I wanted to let you know that toolvector.com is now a sponsor of T2W. If you're not familiar with toolvector.com, you should head over to their website and check it out. They have a great selection of hand tools and other supplies and gear that I use here in my shop, and they have great prices, often better than you'll find at other major online retailers. While you're there, if you use the T2W discount code, you'll save 10% on your order. I want to thank toolvector.com for their support of T2W. Hi, T2W here, and today I want to talk to you about this, the OEM windshield on a BMW R1200 GS. Now it's a fine windshield, well made, it's got a cool shape and angles and all that fun stuff, but for me it wasn't very effective. Now the OEM windshield works great for most riders. I've talked to a lot of guys who love it, have no problem with it, says it works great, but they're usually not 6 foot 4 inches tall either. So for me, I needed something that would get the wind up over my head a little bit more. This OEM shield did work fine for me at lower speeds. I had no problem with it. And off-road, you can crank it down to its lowest position and it stays nice and low. You can stand up on the pegs and you got plenty of room to work around without it being in your way. However, the problem for me was when I got up to highway speeds. I was getting a tremendous amount of buffeting around my helmet, and I would get a lot of air coming around these two notches and hitting me in the arms and shoulders. So even though it was offering me some wind protection at highway speeds, it was still fairly uncomfortable. Yes, it is adjustable, and even in its highest position, it would get it up, start it over, but again, around the top of my helmet, I would just get a tremendous amount of buffeting, which just made it very uncomfortable and noisy. So, for those reasons, I started a search for a new replacement shield. Okay, so here at the bike, we're going to remove the factory windscreen. And it really couldn't be much simpler. In fact, to remove it from the bike, it's only 2 screws. Now once we get it off the bike, there's 4 screws that have to come out to remove the mounting brackets. But let's just start by getting it off the bike and getting it over to the bench. So first things first, I want to remove the nav unit and get it out of the way. On this side of the bike it's fine. As you can see, I can get to the screw that I need to get to. Over here, it makes it just a little awkward, the angle. So by removing the nav unit, it frees up a little extra room over here. So to remove the nav unit, you must have the key to happiness. Insert the key to happiness into the lock and rotate. Then you have to know the super secret handshake and combination of buttons to push to unlock the nav unit and take it off the bike. And now we can get to the screws over here easier. So using a T25, so we're only removing this screw on either side, and all this does is release the windshield brackets from the mounting brackets. Now this is an adjustable windscreen, so you can move it up and down in order to make it a little easier to get to some of these. So by pulling in a downward position, if you lift up this way just a tad and work it down, it should come undone, just like that. Or these 2 little lugs lock right underneath the tabs here. So let's take this over to our bench. Okay, so here we have the OEM windscreen that we just took off the bike, and this is the Z-Technik VStream Touring Screen. These come in several different heights, and you'll see the information in the details below or on my blog. By the way, I'm starting to make a detailed blog for every video that I make, so if you head on over to tim2wheels.com and look under projects, you'll see the latest post, and you can find the one for the video that you want to watch or that you have watched and get more details. That will contain all the product links and other information that you may want to know. This windscreen comes in several different heights. Now, I wanted something that was just going to be a little more effective than the OEM screen, There's a larger screen that is even taller if you want even more wind protection. However, I wanted to strike a nice balance between looks and protection. I didn't want a big slab of plywood out in front of the bike. Even though it would have given me better wind protection, I still like to ride looking over top the windscreen. But I needed it to be effective in keeping the wind just over my head. All right, so in order to mount this new screen, you'll see it comes with the rubber grommets and the mounting holes, but we still need to take these brackets off. If we turn this over, you'll notice that these threads are what held the screen onto the bike, and we want to now remove these four, again, Torx 25 or T25 screws. So with the screws loose, you'll see these brackets come off the back side. And they are a two-piece bracket. So it basically just sandwiches the windscreen in between these two mounting brackets. And then this fits right in the center of the two rubber grommets, giving you some vibration protection. So we'll set those aside because we're going to transfer them over to our new windscreen. And voila, just like that, we've removed the mounting brackets and the windscreen from the old bike. Now before I mount these brackets onto the new screen, what I'd like to do is kind of give you a size comparison to let you see. I don't know if it's going to show up as well on this black background, but I'm going to try to basically line up the mounting holes here to let you get a better look at this. Now if you can tell, here is the outline of the original OEM shield, and you can see it has this kind of a shield look to it with these angular cuts. You'll notice that the V-string is a little wider here, and it is a little taller, particularly here in the center. So from here to here, we're looking at about 3 inches above the Adventure windshield. National Cycle, the maker of these, claims about 4 or 5 inches higher than the GS windshield. The GS Adventure shield is has a little different shape than the standard GS. This shield is roughly 3 inches taller in the middle and about 1.5 inches on the outer edges. It also sticks over here almost 1 inch on either side, but the key thing is not just the overall dimensions above the OEM shield. You'll also notice the shape. If we look at the kind of a side view, the Adventure shield is relatively flat across this profile. And it does have a bit of a flip up here, as you can see, and it has these corners that stick up, but it's relatively flat here. And so that was allowing a lot of wind to get around it and to basically hit me in the shoulders and arms at, again, only at highway speeds. The V-string shield has these little flares that stick up. So according to the manufacturer, it creates the airflow that twirls around, and it's a smoother transition of air around this side. And it has more of a bowed shape at the top here as well. So enough of the show and tell. I'm going to go ahead and get the new mounting brackets on these and show you how this goes back on the bike. So when you go to put these back on, they're actually labeled with an L and an R, if you can see that. There's an R here and an L right there. And the outer brackets are easy. I don't think they're labeled left and right, but you essentially want it to follow the contour of the windshield and to point in. You just insert your Torx 25 screws back in. And that's all there is to it. So now we have our mounting brackets attached to the new screen. So let's go back over to the bike and reinstall it. The little slots and the tabs, we want to get those in first. Now the only trick is you may need to bow the windscreen just a little bit to get these to line up. You may or may not, just depends on how they're mounted. So, and then just get those tabs in the slots, press it back on the windshield, then we go around and put our last 2 screws in. So I'm just going to move the handlebars over here out of my way and then get that screw started right back in here. And there, just that easy, we've replaced the windshield. Check to make sure that everything still works as far as the adjustment. You want to make sure that your handlebars aren't going to hit the screen at full lock on either side, even if we come all the way up and all the way down. And last, reinstall the nav unit, and there we go. So to give you a little background on the thought process of selecting this particular windscreen, in another video you may have seen, and I'll put a link in the cards up here, where I installed the Z-Technik headlight protector on the bike. And one of the main reasons for picking that was that it was made from polycarbonate, and I wanted to protect that very expensive headlight assembly. Now, polycarbonate, if you're not familiar with it, is also known by the trade name Lexan, and it's just, it's much more durable, or at least crack resistant, than acrylic is, which a lot of products are made from acrylic. Now, acrylic is less expensive, but it also is typically more scratch resistant, more abrasion resistant than Lexan or polycarbonate. So some people choose that because it's A, less expensive and scratch resistant. However, it's also easier to shatter and crack than polycarbonate. So National Cycle coats their shields, the polycarbonate shields, in a certain coating that makes them as much or even more scratch resistant. So now you've got all the properties that you could ask for. It's much tougher to break, and it's also more scratch resistant than standard lucite or acrylic. In my search, I was focused really on 3 different options for windscreens. One of which, of course, is the ZTechnik VStream. So the second screen was the Puge, or Puge, I believe is the correct way to pronounce that, 6486 Touring Windscreen. And it had more of that angular look, like similar to the OEM screen, which I kind of like that. The third screen was the Wunderlich, however. Anyway. And the third screen was the Wunderlich Ergo 2 touring screen. So I looked at each of these, and all 3 had an option for clear or a smoke tint. So in looking at the screens, there was 3 major criteria, or 3 factors that I considered in the choice. One of which was the material, and I've already talked about how I prefer the polycarbonate over the acrylic. 2 was the shape and how effective it was, and 3 was the price. So for material, the Puge was made from an acrylic, so that kind of threw it out of the running there. And then the shape, overall I liked the shape and the effectiveness, the smoothness. Now I will admit I've not tried the Puge or the Wunderlich, but I have tried this one and I've been very happy with it. Then third was the price. So with the Puge out of the running because of material, it left it really between the Wunderlich and the VStream. But looking at the price, the Wunderlich was about $200 more than the VStream. At the time of this video, the Z-Technik VStream sells for $129.95, so 130 bucks. The Wunderlich sells for $330 and change. I know Wunderlich has a reputation for having very fine products, but in this case, at the time, I didn't want to spend that much just on a windscreen. And my local dealer, Eurosport Asheville, carried the VStream shields in stock. So I got to look at it, touch it, make sure, see how sturdy it was, and just check the overall quality. So in doing that, I was very happy with it. I purchased it from my local dealer, brought it home, had it on the bike in no time. Now, even though I'm just making this video showing you the windshield and showing you how I install it and everything, I've actually had the windscreen since right after I bought the bike. So I've got about 3,000 miles of riding with this particular windscreen. So the airflow around the sides is so much better than the OEM shield. Before, I was getting hit in this area hard with wind. I mean, really basically from here down to here was just constantly getting that wind buffet hitting, and it was just unpleasant. That coupled with the buffeting around the head was just not good for me. So the airflow around the V-Stream really is much smoother. I just feel a nice gentle breeze on my arms and shoulders now, as opposed to that pounding that I was getting before. So that's a big improvement. Now, the head, I still can feel a little wind, but it is much smoother than with the OEM shield. I'm not getting that buffeting. This is a more smooth. I still feel the wind going over the top of my helmet. That's actually a good thing, because you can still get air in the vents of your helmet and you don't burn up on a hot day. And with the windshield being adjustable, I can crank it down on hot days if I'm going slower, if I want a little more airflow, or if I want to crank it up if I'm getting ready to get up onto a super slab and I want a little more wind protection. So that's really about everything on the windscreen. If you have any questions, please leave some comments below and I'll be happy to respond. And also, for more detail and links, check out my blog on tim2wheels.com. I've been working to revamp the website and to do more with it. So two of the main things is that I'm doing a blog post for every video that I make now. I didn't do that in the past. And that gives you a little more detail behind the scenes, and also links to some of the products and more that you can just put in a description of a video. Also, I've had requests for the stuff I use in the shop. People would ask me questions about a tool that I would use, or a jack, or whatever the case may be. So now I have a stuff I use section, and you can go in there and I'm listing my most common items that I use here in the shop. And of course, that list is going to continue to grow with every video. So every time I add something new or use something new, I'll put a link to it there. This is Tim2Wheels, and as always, thank you so much for watching. That's a wrap.